Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Huck. Today we're doing a quick review of Child of the Prophecy by Juliet Marillier. This is the third book in the Sevenwaters series. I also have done a full spoilers vlog that I will link in the description, so if you've read the book or you want to read along with me, I will have that in the description for you, and that is full spoilers. As I said, this review is going to be spoiler free, so it's going to be much more brief, although it may have some mild spoilers for the first two books because I'm going to kind of talk about where this book starts, so that may spoil some things for the first two books, but no spoilers for this third book. Okay, let's get into it. So in Child of the Prophecy, we are once again kind of moving on to the next generation of women in the family of Sevenwaters. In this case, we are following Fanya, who, again, also, I think I'm pronouncing the name correctly. In the editions that I have, there is no pronunciation guide for the names, so I Googled it and was trying to figure out how to pronounce it, because for a long time, I've been pronouncing it as Fane in my head, but I think it's Fanya. Anyways, so in this we're following Fanya, who is the daughter of Kieran and Neve. Where we're starting, Fanya is already, I think, like 6 years old when the book starts, and where the book starts, we immediately find out that Neve has died, and that Fanya is now being raised just by her father, Kieran, and they live a very, like, isolated, solitary life by the sea in Kerry, and he is raising her essentially in kind of the druidic practices that he grew up with, but is also, alongside druidry, is also teaching her some sorcery. And other than her father, she really only has one friend, which is Dara, who is the child of a group of travelers who are nomadic, and in the summers they settle in Kerry, and so Fanya and Dara are able to like hang out in the summers, and that's really her only friend. So the first part of this book is very quickly kind of catching us up on what Fanya's life is like and how she has been growing up and her relationship to her father and her only friend. And so it starts out with her at like 6 years old, and very quickly we get to when she's like 14, 15 years old, where her father decides that it is time for her to reconnect with the Sevenwaters family, even though he has some very negative and complicated feelings about them because of what they did to him. But he's like, he can't grow up so isolated, and so he, for some reason, calls her grandmother, who is the evil sorceress, to come kind of teach her some of these social things that she needs to know in order to visit their family at Sevenwaters. And while the grandmother is there, she also sets Fanya a task to sabotage a mission that the family of Sevenwaters has to win back these mysterious islands of spiritual significance. I feel like this is a lot of detail, but like all of this is kind of just setting up what the premise is for the book. That's just kind of the first bit, and then the majority of the book is about Fanya, like, you know, traveling to Sevenwaters and reconnecting with that family and having this kind of inner conflict and struggle of trying to figure out who she is and what she wants to do as she is under pressure from her grandmother, but she also is creating bonds with the family that she is supposed to betray. So hopefully that wasn't too much information. That's mostly just what happens in like the first little bit of the book. But this book, I think, I've seen some people, this is their least favorite of the trilogy, and I think that I can understand why that might be, but I still really enjoy it. One of the things that I actually really like about this book, but I think could be something that maybe doesn't land for everybody, is that Fanya is a very different kind of character than the main characters that we've had in the first two books. Sorka and Leodin both have, I think, this kind of groundedness and strength that comes from knowing like the love of their families and this connection to the land of Seven Waters. And Fanya, while her father does love her, he definitely has his limitations in raising her and the way that she's been raised and how isolated she has been. She also doesn't have that connection to Seven Waters and like the community and the land and all of that. And I think in a lot of ways this book involves a lot more growth for Fanya. She is a more flawed, naive, internally conflicted character who makes some very bad decisions, but she also is put in some really difficult situations, and her character can be very frustrating. She makes some really bad decisions, and yeah, there are times where she's certainly frustrating, and also if you're going into it kind of expecting more of the same type of main character that we've had from the first two books, she's just very different and is somebody who it feels much more like unmoored and is really trying to she's having to really find herself at the same time as like going through these really difficult situations. And so I can see how this could be a book that just like doesn't land for people as well. Personally, as much as I did certainly find her character frustrating, I ultimately love a character who is going through like an internal journey, someone who has to really reflect and think about like, who am I? And I find that really interesting. And so in that way, like I did really enjoy reading her character. As with many of Juliet Marillier's books, this also includes a romance. I think this is maybe the least romance centric of at least the first three books, if not the entire series. It is very much kind of quietly in the background, but I do really like the romance. And I think there are always little things that I'm kind of like, well, I wish he hadn't said that. I wish maybe he hadn't done that. But overall, one, I don't want to spoil anything, but it is a romance trope that I personally really like. And I also just like his character, you know, but I also can see how like if you are primarily reading these books for the romance, this is a less romance heavy book because Fanya has this like mission that she's focused on and she's kind of putting everything else out of her mind. She also is going through so much like inner turmoil that she's just like not engaging with romance for a large portion of the book. So I feel like I keep talking about why this doesn't work for people, but overall, like I still loved this. I think that this, like, it depends on what it is you're going into the book for, and I think maybe the point I'm trying to make is not warning people off of like, oh, this won't work for you, so much as like setting expectations as to what this book is and in what ways it is different from the first two, so that maybe you could kind of enjoy it and not go in with the same expectations as, you know, the first two books and then be disappointed by the fact that this one is very different in a lot of ways. But of course still has a lot of Juliet Marillier's signature, like it still has her beautiful writing and atmosphere and the folklore interwoven into the story. And I really loved in this one, maybe I say this for everyone, but I love the way that she integrates storytelling into her stories, because sometimes I feel like some authors will insert stories within their story that have nothing to do with it, but they really has no impact. Whereas I feel like Juliet Marillier, the stories that she includes within her story, like when the characters are telling stories, are vital to the story or the character development or the like the plot in some way. They always are informing characters, influencing their actions, foreshadowing something. And that was so very much the case in this. And I think that the way that she integrated storytelling into it to kind of tell us something, especially tell us things about the characters, was just so interesting and just fantastic. So, you know, if you're going into it because you love her, like, you know, slow character-focused writing and her prose and the atmosphere and the folklore and the storytelling and like all of that, that's still all here. It's just there are some things about this one that are certainly different from the first two, but I think this book is still fantastic. So I think, as with the other two, I said my rating for this is 5 stars. That may be a biased rating because this is my like millionth reread of this book. But it, you know, it is what it is. It's a 5-star for me. If I was reading this for the first time, if I was doing a more objective rating, maybe it would be more like a 4.5, but my rating is 5 stars. But I would love to know, have you read this? Are you planning on reading it? And yeah, as I said, if you want full spoilers, like really like long form talking about everything that happens in this, I will link my spoiler vlog in the description. But thank you all for watching, and until next time, bye.